There has been this obsession, Clay, with threats to our democracy. And if you see a pundit on TV who is on MSNBC or CNN or NBC News or PBS or you name it, it is almost like a form of it's a preamble. It's a thing that they feel the need to say all the time. Threats to our democracy, threats to our democracy. And it's a phrase that's meant, I think, to signal, to symbolize so much just by saying those words. It's a bit like announcing your pronouns. When you just say threats to democracy, it's like somebody announcing their pronouns. You're not doing it for any purpose other than tell everybody I'm on your team. Like, hey, here I am. I'm one of you. I'm a leftist.
Hey, everybody, we're excited for election night, as many of you are as well. We're going to be having an incredible party in Nashville, and we want you to be able to hang out with us as a part of our VIP family.
So all you got to do is sign up, become a Clay and Buck VIP, and you can stream and join us. Some of your favorite people are going to be there, too. It's going to be an election night bonanza. We'll see you then. This is fascinating because of the story that just came out from The Intercept, which is a left-wing entity that Glenn Greenwald, who was a founder of it, left because it refused to write the truth about Democrats and refused to do real journalism if it affected Democrats. So Greenwald left out of principle, which is rare. And the Department of Homeland Security, according to The Intercept, which has decided to do real journalism, is quietly broadening its efforts to curb speech it considers dangerous. Years of internal DHS memos, emails, and documents obtained via leaks and an ongoing lawsuit, as well as public documents, illustrate an expansive effort by the Department of Homeland Security to influence tech platforms, to restrict and censor and shadow ban speech. This is a massive story that actually should go under the threats to democracy headline, Clay.
This is the real threat to democracy, Buck. And I testified, thanks Congressman Jim Jordan and his office invited me to come testify in March of 2021. And I got to go to Capitol Hill when it was still all shut down and you could barely get in there, and I had to wear a mask. That video is out there somewhere of me trying to talk with that stupid mask on to testify. But I lived this and still live it, although I don't own the company anymore. Buck, I saw it with my own eyes with our company, Outkick, which, thanks to you guys and many others out there, had its best month ever in October. You talked about us fighting the battle to try to make sports still for sports fans. I think the success that Outkick is having, now owned by Fox, is reflective of that. But I had President Trump on my show in August of 2020. Very first time he came on a couple of times. And as soon as we had him on and shared everything that he had said on the show, our traffic at Facebook dropped to 80% the next week. It's unbelievable. You can go look at the data. We entered it into the congressional record. We had a bunch of positive stories about Trump because at the time I was fighting to try to make sure college football got played, and he wanted kids back in school. He wanted schools open. He wanted everybody playing sports. And our traffic collapsed. And the clear algorithmic response there was, if you're writing positive stories about Trump, we're going to ding you at Facebook. Same thing happened at Twitter. Our social traffic vanished. And so this, to me, is the actual biggest story in America today. And the way that I would sum it up, Buck, is, and I'm writing about this partly in this new book that I'm working on too, but think about this larger context. I think almost everyone listening to us right now, no matter what your politics are, would acknowledge that what the Chinese government does is they've basically built a Great Wall of China in the internet, right? So they restrict, if you try to look up Tiananmen Square, if you try to look up the date that happened, if you try to look up things that the government doesn't like, you can't find it in China. I'm not even sure if Outkick could be accessed in China. I bet clayandbuck.com can't be accessed in China. That would be my guess. I don't know. The government does it. That's wrong. That would violate our own First Amendment. So what's happening in America is the government has deputized all these big tech companies and is colluding with them to restrict information and censor. The United States government could not do it, but they're putting pressure on all these big tech companies and doing it through them, which is a direct threat to freedom of information, to marketplace of ideas, to our ability to have fair and true elections. And democracy dies in darkness. The Washington Post ain't writing about it. The New York Times, all the news that fits a print, they're not writing about it. Credit to The Intercept for being on top of this, but a lot of you out there knew that this was going on. And I believe this is one of the things about Alex Berenson's lawsuit that could be so unbelievably thought-provoking and ground earth-shattering is we're going to have evidence of it all.
I actually think that the mania, and I went on a long Twitter thread today, just honestly as a catharsis. I mean, just as a cleansing of the mind and the soul that I'm trying to go through here with how just destructive, moronic, and vicious the Fauciite apparatus was, and we're still just beginning to figure out the damage. And now they're writing the articles about maybe it was really bad for children to be taken out of school, and maybe it was really bad to mask them, and maybe it was really bad to keep them at home for 2 years. Maybe those parents who were saying, I'll do anything to keep little Timmy or little Susie safe, including locking them in their bedroom for 2 years because of a virus that they have a literal 1 in a million chance of dying from, that they're going to get anyway, by the way. Maybe that's a really bad idea because now their immune systems are compromised in general, and they're getting flu and RSV and these other ailments in numbers that are pushing them into the hospitals in much higher levels than they've ever seen before. That was just written about today, by the way, in The Atlantic for everybody listening. But Clay, it was only possible to do this not only because of the suppression that social media did to put down voices like yours and mine. Now, remember, people say, well, why don't they just ban you? If they ban outright, then everybody just goes to Truth Social. Then everybody realizes.
They did ban some people outright.
Some of them
right?
they
did, for sure.
But they didn't ban everybody. The more effective tool for propaganda purposes is to allow for the perception of a free, open marketplace of ideas, but their side always wins. This is kind of like the professional wrestling vibe you get on some of like CNN when they used to have conservatives on, and I used to be somebody to go over there. What you realize after a while is it's all set up so that they seem like they're willing to engage the other side, but you lose.
You're the Washington Generals. You're the Washington Generals against the Harlem Globetrotters. You were there to get dunked on. You were there to be dunked on. And for conservatives on certain issues, whether it was the 2020 election and the allegations of theft in it, and COVID was actually the first one, it was to create the perception that they were winning the argument, and that was a lie. So it's only possible, I think, to have had such a disastrous COVID response because of the false belief the social media companies propagated that there was we were having debates. Experts were being heard from both sides. That was a lie. And what you have to add to the censorship component of all this, so that's on the censorship side, which, as you always say, those are never the good people. The shut down the ideas people are never on the right side. Totally true. But beyond that, they were objectively wrong in what they were censoring in so many of the cases, in masking, in vaccines, in lockdowns. Go down this list. In the Hunter Biden laptop, they were wrong. So they're censoring, and they're cheating by censoring, and they're even wrong in what they are censoring. And there has to be a reckoning for it all. If you truly believe in American democracy, I would say the number one thing that has to happen, Buck, is when your elected official gets information wrong and leads to wrong policy choices time after time after time, as blue cities and blue states and the politicians that represent them did over and over and over again, they have to be removed from office. There have to be consequences for poor judgment and poor policy decisions. And I think that's what you're seeing, honestly. And I think that's what Democrats are so afraid of. That's why they're trying to write these articles now saying, let's just have blanket amnesty. Let's just pretend the last 2 years didn't exist. Let's pretend that you weren't told, hey, you can't be in the hospital when your loved one dies. Let's pretend that your kids weren't kept out of school and when they went back, they weren't forced to wear masks. Let's pretend that your business didn't get shut down. Let's just have amnesty for the last 2.5 years. No, we need a reckoning. We need revenge. We need consequences. And that's what 7 days from now has to be about.
It's the first chance we've had, everyone. It's the first time this country has been able to look at the full-scale results. You know, look at what they have done to the country. Look at what their COVID policies did to you, to your children, to your community, and then look at what their spending policies have done to inflation and their crime policies have done to safety in your neighborhood and the border policies have done to the massive influx of illegal aliens and fentanyl into your communities. Look at all of that. This is your opportunity. This is your chance to do something about it. It's not a cure-all. It's not a panacea. We're not going to fix everything, no matter how good this election is. But if nothing else, it can stop the madness for a bit. It can slow down the destruction. It can begin to turn the ship away from the shoals and back out to open sea. I mean, it can make things happen that need to happen for us to start the healing process, honestly, as a country from the madness we've all been through. I feel very strongly about this. I mean, the fact that there are still people that are naming buildings after Dr. Fauci and listening to Rochelle Walensky, and that is unacceptable. The fact that there are still people walking around masking up who think it protects them, and that the experts won't come forward, that there are doctors who say you have to mask up before you come into their office in major cities all across this country. They're shameful because they're doing this out of cowardice. They're not doing this out of actual medical belief anymore because no one with an MD is really that dumb at this point.
How about the fact Rochelle Walensky got COVID again? 5 shots, had COVID, got treated by Paxlovid, I think, has now tested positive for COVID.
She's had a rebound. Biden's had a rebound. I think Fauci's had a rebound.
Jill Biden, his wife did. Yes.
His wife did. They tell us that Paxlovid rebound infections are 1%. And yet the most, prominent people in the Democrat Party on this issue are all getting rebound infections. I'm not a math guy, really, but I feel like what are the odds that the people that you'd most be curious about their status with Paxlovid and COVID and after the 5 shots, they're all getting rebound infections, but it's only 1% that get the rebound infection, Clay, because it works so well. Folks, we are uncovering truth here, and it's important that we make it matter. And that's why we keep hammering on this election.